What else has been up for you? What are you doing? What are you able to keep an eye on the Hoosiers?
Yeah, I haven't. No, I've been watching quite a bit of their games, and I have been impressed at how they found themselves. With regards to the injuries, with regard to Race and regards to Xavier Johnson still being out. I think Hood Shafino is playing great. He's playing at a high level. But I think that it's interesting because you look back at that loss to Northwestern, and you're thinking at the time, God, that's a terrible loss at Assembly Hall and stuff. And Northwestern is playing pretty well, so they might be better than people thought this season. Chris Collins has them playing pretty well, so I don't know. You still look back on that stretch though, where they weren't defending very well, and you looked at some missed opportunities for some wins in league play. But they're certainly on a roll now, and I know their schedule is going to get probably tougher in February because they've still got the 2 games with Purdue coming up, and that'll be Trayce Jackson-Davis's opportunity, right, Jim?
Always.
Who's going to be player of the year, Trayce Jackson-Davis or Zach Edey? Well, there you go. You got 2 games, mano a mano there, where we can kind of figure it out and determine who's going to be the national player of the year, because both are definitely All-Americans at this point.
Well, and that's a great question for someone who is completely outside and is not no bias. Who do you see as the player of the year in the Big Ten right now?
Well, yeah, no, right now,
I'd
still have to give it to Edey, but
why? And why?
Why? Just because he's been dominant the whole season. I think with Trayce, he had the back issues early in the year, so I think you have to take into account the body of work.
Now, but even with the back issues, he played fine during that. Except Indiana had a poor stretch that I don't think had anything to do with his back issues. I think it just had anything to do with intestinal fortitude issues with his team. It wasn't just in Trayce Jackson-Davis, because he played well in some of the games they lost. So he played well even in some of the games they lost. But to me, I think he is the player of the year right now. Purdue is doing better than Indiana as a whole, but I don't think that Zach Edey is doing better. Trayce Jackson-Davis has done things that no player has done in 25 and 30 years. We're not hearing that about Zach Edey. Zach Edey has been very consistent, and I'm not taking anything away from him, but he has not done what Trayce Jackson-Davis is obviously capable of doing and is doing and has done. So to me right now, Trayce Jackson-Davis is my player of the year in the Big Ten. I'm not going to knock him.
Zach Edey, 21, 13 rebounds, 61.1% from the field. Where's Trayce right now?
I can tell you this. I ran the numbers myself. I know Trayce Jackson-Davis outplayed Zach Edey throughout the month of January in the Big Ten.
All right. I mean, that's like I said, teams are taking.
And I'm not saying that for. I hate when people think I'm a homer, because I'm not. But I also I hate when people just base things on wins. And yeah, Purdue has got a better team, has had a better season than Indiana up to this point. But Indiana had they played a little bit tougher schedule, but they had some games where they had to find themselves. And that's that. But in Big Ten play, Trayce Jackson-Davis has turned a corner and become a completely different player and gone to a different level. I have not seen Zach Edey go to another level. He's, like I said, been very consistent, but he's been consistent here and not stepped it up, where I see the difference in Trayce Jackson-Davis.
Well, we'll see. February will tell a lot. I think that's going to be an interesting month. I would still take Edey at this point, but I think Trayce has a chance to make up some ground here in the next couple of weeks. And if he does, then that I think that'll be good for Indiana at this point. And I think for the Hoosiers, like I said, it looks like barring collapse, you're going to have another NCAA tournament season for Mike Woodson. I mean, how far they go. We would call it. We will see at this point, and what kind of seed they get. But it's looking really promising, and it's looking in the right direction. And I think Renew and Hood Shafino are 2 guys too that certainly you're going to see them play better in February and March. The freshmen, it usually takes February and March for them to really, really figure it out. And I think that really bodes well for Indiana. And you're starting to see Renew figure it out, right? And you're definitely seeing Hood Schifino figure it out, which is, Indiana has not had that dynamic guard during Trayce's tenure, and they finally have it now, which I think will bode well in February and March for that team.